Across the misty landscapes of Britain, where rolling hills meet ancient rivers, the remains of mighty castles still rise against the gray sky. Their towers stand in silence, their walls weathered by centuries of wind and rain. To the modern visitor, they appear as ruins, reminders of kings, knights, and forgotten wars. But behind their crumbling beauty lies something far more extraordinary. Each of these fortresses once hid a world of secrets, clever defenses, invisible traps, and ingenious architecture designed to protect life and repel death. The stone may have cracked, but the intelligence behind it remains timeless. Castles were not built merely for comfort or prestige. They were complex machines of war, crafted by minds that understood survival down to the smallest detail. In this journey through Britain's medieval strongholds, we uncover the brilliance, strategy, and hidden genius that made these fortresses the beating hearts of power, and reveal the forgotten secrets that once made them invincible. The story begins in 1066. The Battle of Hastings had ended, and England fell under the rule of William the Conqueror. But the victory was just the beginning. To hold his new kingdom, William needed control, and control required fortresses. Across the countryside, the Normans built hundreds of motte and bailey castles, wooden towers raised high on artificial hills, encircled by deep moats and wooden fences. These were not grand structures, but symbols of domination. From the south coast to the northern frontiers, they rose like thorns across the English landscape. Their design was brutally efficient. The steep motte made direct attack almost impossible. The wooden palisades forced enemies into narrow choke points. Archers from above could rain arrows and hot tar upon anyone foolish enough to approach. The bailey below, the courtyard, held soldiers, supplies, and livestock, forming a small self-contained world. But wood, for all its speed of construction, had one fatal flaw: it burned. As England grew wealthier and warfare more sophisticated, the age of wood gave way to the age of stone, and with it began the golden age of castle defense. By the 12th century, castle building had become a science. The new stone fortresses, Dover, Rochester, Windsor, and the Tower of London, were feats of engineering and intimidation. Their massive keeps loomed like mountains of gray, visible for miles, meant to inspire loyalty among subjects and dread among enemies. But their strength wasn't only in their walls. Every part of their design concealed hidden strategies. The spiral staircases, for instance, always wound clockwise upward. To the ordinary eye, this was simply a practical design. But to the trained warrior, it was a subtle trap. Right-handed attackers would find their sword arms pinned against the inner wall, unable to strike effectively, while defenders above enjoyed a perfect swing with the advantage of height. Even the placement of doors and corridors followed defensive logic. Narrow passageways forced enemies to move single file, making them easy targets. Courtyards were designed with kill zones, open spaces where attackers would be exposed from all sides. Then came the gatehouse, the ultimate death trap. To reach the heart of a castle, invaders had to pass through heavy oak doors reinforced with iron, and if they made it inside, they entered a corridor of doom. Murder holes in the ceiling allowed defenders to pour boiling oil, molten lead, or even sand, which, when heated, burned like fire onto their heads. Behind them, the portcullis could drop in an instant, trapping them like animals in a stone cage. Every inch of a castle's design was a masterclass in strategy, beautiful, brutal, and utterly brilliant. While the walls and towers made castles appear impregnable, their true genius often lay underground. Beneath the surface, engineers carved out labyrinths of tunnels, passages, and chambers, the secret arteries of the fortress. Sally ports were among the most fascinating of these hidden features. These small, concealed doorways were built into outer walls, allowing defenders to slip out undetected during a siege. From these exits, soldiers could launch sudden surprise attacks, strike enemy camps, or bring in supplies before disappearing once more behind the safety of the walls. Some castles contained entire underground worlds. Dover Castle, for example, hides miles of tunnels beneath its cliffs, later used during the Napoleonic Wars and even World War II. Centuries after their creation, these hidden spaces continued to serve their purpose. At Rochester in 1215, rebels defied King John during a siege that lasted for weeks. When royal forces finally brought the great keep down by burning the foundations with pig fat, it wasn't brute force alone that decided the battle. It was the endurance of the castle itself. Its design, its layout, and its deep foundations were all created to resist collapse. The architects of these fortresses understood that power was not in size alone, but in planning, the quiet intelligence built into every stone. The moats that surrounded Britain's castles were not just picturesque water features, they were psychological weapons. A moat filled with dark, stagnant water or sharp stakes created hesitation in any attacker's mind. Crossing it meant vulnerability, exposure, and often death. But not all moats held water. Many were dry. Their purpose was to trap and confuse, not to drown. Some were so steep that even siege ladders could not reach the wall beyond. In castles like Bodiam, moats were designed to reflect the sky, making them appear far deeper than they really were. A simple illusion that terrified approaching armies. Drawbridges, too, carried deception. Some castles had false bridges leading to dead ends, while the Real Gate remained hidden. In others, defenders could raise the drawbridge from within seconds, sealing off the only entrance. And beyond the moat, the genius of concentric defense awaited, multiple rings of walls, each higher and stronger than the last. This system, perfected at castles like Caerphilly, Conway, and Beaumaris, meant that even if attackers breached one wall, they faced another and another, with nowhere to retreat. Each courtyard was a battlefield designed to wear the enemy down. Arrows rained from above, stones fell from towers, and every turn led deeper into a deadly maze. To invade a medieval castle was to fight not just men, but the architecture itself. Beyond their outer defenses, the interiors of castles were marvels of survival design. Walls were not merely barriers, they were living systems, built to resist hunger, thirst, and time itself. Narrow arrow slits or loopholes lined the walls. From the outside, they looked like harmless cracks. But inside, they widened to form cone-shaped openings, giving archers a wide field of fire. One man could defend an entire section of wall with deadly precision. Freshwater systems were another secret of endurance. Builders designed hidden cisterns to collect rainwater, while wells were dug deep into the rock to provide a constant supply during sieges. Underground cellars stored food in cool darkness, protected from rot and flame. Even the waste systems held hidden value. Some latrines doubled as escape tunnels, narrow, foul-smelling routes that could save a besieged lord's life in a moment of desperation. And as warfare evolved, so too did these fortresses. The arrival of gunpowder in the 14th century changed everything. Tall towers gave way to lower, thicker bastions capable of withstanding cannon fire. Some castles were even redesigned entirely, a fusion of medieval art and modern science. These were not just homes of nobility, they were the apex of human ingenuity. Every inch of stone was born from experience, experiment, and necessity. Today, as we walk among these ancient ruins, the cold stones beneath our hands, the whisper of wind through empty halls, we see only fragments of what once was. Yet if we look closely, we can still trace the brilliance that once made these castles unbreakable. The secret staircases, the echoing tunnels, the cleverly angled walls, all speak of minds that thought in layers of defense and deception. They remind us that medieval Britain was not a land of superstition alone, but of deep intelligence and design. These castles are more than relics of power. They are testaments to strategy, endurance, and the human instinct to survive. Their forgotten defenses, hidden for centuries beneath moss and memory, still whisper a timeless lesson. That true strength is not measured in might, but in the mind that builds to outlast time itself.